Hi, I'm Vanessa Lake, trauma therapist for both the living and the spirit world. In this video, we're diving into a recent question that I got. Are the Akashic Records keeping us stuck in trauma loops, basically only looking at lifetimes of pain? Should we be using something else instead, like the Eckoushic Records? Let me break this down as a therapist and as my spirit guide showed me. What are the Akashic Records? Think of the Akashic Records as the cosmic case file of your soul. Every thought, action, lifetime, and contract you've ever experienced, all stored there. As a trauma therapist, I see it like a client's history. You need to know what happened to understand the patterns. But sometimes reading the file is painful. That's why when people open the Akashic Records, they often see trauma loops, past life pain, or soul contracts. It's not that the Akashic Records are a trap, it's that they're a mirror of everything that's happened, including distortion. What are the Eckoushic Records? Now, this is a newer term that I heard floating around. The Eckoushic Records aren't a library that's out there. They're more like the original template inside you, the unbroken memory of who you are at source, like a soul DNA level. If the Akashic Records are the messy hard drive with every file, the Eckoushic Records are the clean backup drive that never got corrupted. It holds your eternal life source code, untouched by trauma, timelines, or fall events. The problem is you can't simply download the Akashic Records, the clean backup drive, if you don't clean up the messy hard drive. If you just put the good on top of the bad will bleed through. There'll still be corruption and issues and things that carry over. It's about cleaning up and then installing the good stuff, right? So, a metaphor that my guides gave me was that imagine that you're living with one leg. Opening the Akashic Records might show you the lifetime where you lost the leg, the lessons you are learning from that one leg. Opening the Akashic Records shows you the original template where you had two legs. Well, knowing that you used to have two legs can feel pretty pointless when you're hopping around on one leg. So, the Akashic view tells you why you're in pain, lessons that can be learned from it. It helps you heal the emotional trauma. The Akashic view reminds you that you're not actually broken at your core. It's just how it's showing up in this lifetime or across multiple lifetimes. And sometimes just remembering your original wholeness, it can activate healing in ways that your conscious mind can't explain. So, are we forever stuck in a trauma loop? Well, no. Loops happen when you only see the trauma and forget the wholeness. If you only sit in the Akashic Records, only look at those, past lives of trauma, of pain, then yeah, you're going to be replaying the same story. But also, if you only access the Akashic, then you risk bypassing the real pain. Yes, knowing you're healed and divine and source, but I'm also human living this experience, and this is how it's showing up in this lifetime. True healing happens when you combine them. You acknowledge and release the trauma, anything from distortions of lifetimes and contracts and pain and negative experiences, and then you anchor in the undistorted template of wholeness, confidence, creativity, all the good parts of who you are. It's the bridge between therapy and spiritual healing. You need both. And here's something that I really want to emphasize. The Akashic Records aren't just only for digging up trauma and contracts to release. Because they are your sole record of every experience you've had, you haven't only had shitty lifetimes. They're also a treasure chest of strength, joy, and creativity. When you were a great public speaker, when you were, a writer, when you were a painter, when you were all these other wonderful things that you may want to tap into in this lifetime. Just like in trauma therapy, we don't only focus on what went wrong. We also look for resources and resilience. The Akashic Records can be used in the same way. Access the things that you've learned, grown, your skill set, your gifts. For example, when my own mom was struggling, I asked her soul to show me the lifetime where she felt the most healed, free, the most herself. What I saw was absolutely amazing. It was her as a Lemurian dancing to the sound of the elements. She was able to hear fire, water, wind, earth, and she was moving with them. It was pure joy, rhythm, flow. It was totally healed. By calling in that lifetime, I could share with her a simple healing instruction for this one. Listen to more music. Dance, sing, let your soul remember. And guess what? That's healing too. So, yes, the Akashic Records can show us pain, but they can also show us our peak lifetimes, our hidden talents, our unlived joy, even creative inspiration for art, writing, business, whatever, relationships. When we bring those lifetimes forward, it's like giving our present day self a transfusion of confidence, beauty, freedom. And that's also part of healing. And honestly, it's one of the parts I personally need to practice more, letting the joy come through. So, how do I work with both in the soul grid healing work that I do? Well, fun fact, my spirit team has taught me most everything I know about the spiritual and energetic work that I do. So, I don't often use the same language as other people in the spiritual communities. Like when I first heard about grid work, I was like, what is that? It sounds technical and honestly a little too weird for me. I'll just be over here clearing the land of trauma after I cross some stuck spirits. Ooh, look, that person's energy field from multiple lifetimes has a chakra that's upside down, or there's some funky mechanical spider in their spine. Well, I'll just remove that and then weave together some pretty crystal lights. And my guides laughed and laughed and said, yeah, that's grid work, both for the planet and for souls. I'd already been doing grid work before I even knew what the word meant. So I shouldn't be surprised that when I first heard of the Eckoushic Records, I was like, oh, should I be tapping into that? That sounds very helpful. Like people should know their codes before trauma happened. In which my guide said, yeah, you're already doing that. So when I do soul grid healing, I already call in your oversoul, the undistorted part of you closest to your source code. And we work together on your grid. I don't just find the root cause your pain or pattern. I also reweave your soul grid with your divine blueprint before distortions ever touched it. I am blending both the Akashic and Eckoushic levels so the healing goes all the way to the DNA of your soul, not just the surface of your energy body and not just this lifetime. I've actually created a service design exactly for this kind of deep work with your soul, your oversoul, and our combined divine spirit teams guiding me. The Akashic Soul reading, in which I locate the root cause, lifetime contracts, patterns, ancestral stuff that's not even yours to carry, that are creating your current blocks. The soul grid healing and fragment integration. I clear distortions and integrate lost aspects of your soul. This is also resource retrieval, that soul level joy activation, calling in those lifetimes and fragments that hold joy, freedom, your strengths, that fills the space that's left when we remove the pain. Reweaving the divine blueprint. Me and your team, we anchor your pre-fall undistorted template from your oversoul. And then with Akashic Reiki, I seal the work in at the soul level, not just your energy body in this lifetime, so the shifts hold and integrate. This bundle helps you move beyond just knowing your past lives to actually healing them and embodying your wholeness now. If you're ready to experience this for yourself and tap into your true potential beyond the pain, trauma, and stuck patterns, check out the link in the description and book your remote session.